Turn that, not have an endorsement, I guess. I'm not going to do face puppets or finger puppets or any of that stuff. Over here, and I thank some of them for hanging around. Some of our board members are over there. We have spent the better part of the last 10 days looking at different things and don't necessarily have a conclusion to tell you tonight. But unfortunately, it's not physically possible, given the size of our staff, to have 48 people text separately like we did this afternoon and want immediate comments about stuff. It's not practical. So we thought maybe we would just get in here and tell you where we are and answer any questions in here. We won't do any additional sidebars, so ask it now if you want to ask it, because I can tell you what basically is going on. Obviously, with what's going on around us, we would be less than doing our obligation if we didn't look at options. And right now there's still primarily options about what to do with the rest of this tournament and potentially the next tournament next week. We don't take our direction from college conferences or other state associations. We take it from our member schools and our board and our partners at the State Department of Education. We've been in touch today. I made the comment earlier, I think I've seen Governor Beshear more this week than his wife has in terms of briefings and data updates and everything. And it's not for us to decide the tone and tenor or procedures they're using. They and the healthcare people that are involved are obviously trying to really take a hard look at this COVID-19 or coronavirus, whichever you want to call it, and what it's done. Right now, we're thankful that the state hasn't been impacted any more than it has. But we also know, with the recent emphasis for the CDC on high gathering events, that we would be irresponsible if we didn't look at potential adjustments. So our number one goal always is to protect the participation opportunity these 15 to 18-year-olds have earned. If you don't believe it means something, look at the two groups you just saw. One group delighted about their accomplishments of continuing, and one group literally heartbroken. It means something. More than some conference that uses that expression, it does mean more here. And obviously we have to keep in mind the future of what we're doing, but at the same time, this is more than about a week. I was on a call this morning or this afternoon with the lead educators in the state, deeply concerned about changes in plans and what's going to happen coming up. And they've got much more serious questions than a basketball game, because they've got to worry about trips that have been planned for years, and they've got to worry about various things with testing and with the end of the year stuff and the local autonomy. Those issues ours don't mirror. I will say these last a few days, especially since last Thursday, best way I can describe them is suffocating, because the data is every second you're getting data, and about the time somebody else releases more data, there's some reporter who's just doing his or her job, wants to know if you'll comment on it, wants to know if you'll think of it. So right in the middle of the game. So we just wanted to let you know our plans right now are that we are gathering data tonight and tomorrow morning. We are scheduled to talk with our Department of Education again in the morning, and likely with the governor's office, who has asked for us to be involved in a conversation and looking at alternative plans. Yes, those plans could go into effect as early as Friday. And yes, those plans would impact more than just the girls' tournament. But as far as very specifics, I think that the CDC guidance on crowd spacing is what really is pushing a lot of people to look at different things. You know, if you look out there tonight, we had a team in the first game that didn't have a very big crowd, but they all sat right close to each other. They did not want to have that spacing. So what can we do if we do have, continue to play, which we want to do, but what can we do to fix that problem? What can we do if the crowd spacing, and listen, I've been bombarded by information and happen to, yes, I've been around too long, but I've got a lot of contacts that have been on our sports medicine committee nationally and locally, and there's a huge debate about the value of spacing and the value, but you know what? We've got to work together as a commonwealth with this potential problem. It may end up, we may get people that look at everybody in June and say, wow, did we overreact? And we may look at everybody in June and people say, I am so thankful people took these steps. And we do not know that today. So there's two issues that I will take any questions, and I'm going to be evasive on if you start getting into specifics. I'm pretty good at being evasive. But I'll try to at least tell you the thought process. The other thing I want to be sure you understand, this is really the first situation like this that's occurred since the advent of social media. And there are, misinformation is being spread at state record pace, to use our everyday lingo. Misinformation is being spread. Today, there began to be a bunch of rumors going around the state about proposed cancellation of spring sports, period. Never has even been discussed. From an association perspective, we have contracts for state championship venues, and everything up until then is decided by the local schools. They decide when districts are played, they decide when regional track meets are run, when regional tennis tournaments are held. We just get a state venue, and many of those can't be rescheduled. So it could be at the end of the day, and we don't know this, it could be at the end of the day that baseball coach doesn't get his vaunted spacing in between pitching outings for certain people, or the track people don't get the right number of meets they'd like to have, or the tennis people don't get. This is a very unusual situation. I can only speak for 36 years, but it's definitely the first time in 36 years it's happened. Mr. Kidwell can probably speak for the last 70, but I can tell you that it is a very rare occurrence. And so we're having to take very rare steps. But I want to be sure the spring sports thing was out there, because some of you are on those listservs and baseball coaches are calling you and coach associations are reacting and overreacting. And that's not even our position to step in and say, we're not doing this. We've had my knowledge, one true championship cancellation was 4 or 5 years ago with the track meet due to lightning. That's the only time we ever call one off early. But we're going to try to play it because these kids earned it. But we may not be able to play it the way we did last year, may not be able to play it the way we did this year. So Frank, I guess if you'll proctor the rest of it and do your job.
Okay.
Questions? Anybody?
Any questions? In the front?
Yeah, Jerry.
Right there.
He's standing right there by you. That's why you're a reporter, not an aviator.
Interpreting what you said, it sounds like that you will play tomorrow with fans, and Friday.
The intention is to try to play tomorrow, because I think certainly an abrupt mid-first round change would be a bit of a struggle. We also have to worry about equity. We have 8 teams that got to experience the basic full experience of a game, maybe through ushering steps and everything else. We can work on the spacing thing tomorrow and give every team that opportunity. But I think tomorrow we'll be able to announce exactly what's going on.
And would you play without fans if that's the recommendation?
That has to, playing without fans is better than not playing. It's like the two very, very unwise choices you get to choose from. They're at the bottom of the barrel, but certainly playing without fans is better, or playing with less fans is better than not playing at all.
Right here in the corner.
How would do you have an idea of how or if you would refund people in such a situation if that were to play out where there's no?
Well, I think we're trying to, we partnered with the arena this year. It's the first time we've gone totally automated on ticketing. So luckily, the people who bought in advance, we have a record of. It's the walk-up people at the pep sales, it's the walk-up people the night of the game that you kind of struggle getting a really good arm around. And there's actually technicalities in the way those contracts read between the arena and the ticket companies that you're probably obligated for refunds, or obligated to offer them. Are we going to send correspondence asking people not to ask for refunds? Depends. But I think because, as I've mentioned to you before, we're a nonprofit. Some years we prove that more than others. This is certainly a point, but it can't be a decision point. This is about health and safety and opportunities for kids and the counterbalance between them.
Right here again.
Is there any type of insurance situation for something like this that you know?
We've looked at it. It's not practical, and none of them, even the venues and events that have insurance, it doesn't cover pandemics. Most of them have a specific exception for that because of the potential damages. Even the stuff we've looked at before in terms of surety bonds, in terms of event cancellation insurance, wouldn't have been valid because this is all illness related to pandemic, especially with WHO declaring a pandemic today. Changes everything.
2 questions. You mentioned you'll meet tomorrow, I guess, from the next foreseeable days, you'll meet every day just for status to see where you're at with your tournaments, and then probably an easy question for you to answer: what's best case scenario? What's worst case scenario?
Well, I mean, I think obviously best case scenario is an announcement tomorrow that the virus is gone, but that's probably not going to happen. Worst case scenario is some form of directive that says don't play at all. We're trying to find an answer in the middle. And I think we've got a pretty good idea. And I don't want it to drag on. I don't want next week to drag on. I don't want the rest of this week to drag on. So we're trying to get all the information we can tonight and tomorrow morning, and then be able to make a final call tomorrow that we can work with. There's lots of logistics here. There's the ticket, there's hotels, there's a variety of convention bureaus and everybody else. It's not just something you just, here's what we'll do. It's a different story.
Is there an alternative other than no fans?
Oh yeah, I think there's as I say, there's no fans, limited fans, less limited fans. I think like I said, Jason, the first priority is come and play. And I think that's what we want to try to guarantee first. I can tell you that we're probably going to have in some situations, I can foresee it because of the way some of the districts have reacted to recent news. We could have, say, limited fans and some districts still wouldn't send anybody. We might have a school decline to come. We've never had that happen. We've talked about everything, and I don't think there's anything that can't happen or is off the table.
Right here.
Is it a possibility, depending on how, like if you say you have to postpone the boys or in the rest of this tournament, it's in April or something, that the venue would change, or is it?
Well, there's not an alternative venue that would allow for full attendance in the state. It doesn't exist in the state, especially on the boys' side. That has had an interest. Let's say that. Let's qualify that. We've got a venue that's pretty good size, but they haven't shown any interest at all. So really, this is our venue. We have a long-term contract here to play, and we're going to honor that contract if at all possible. Alternative dates become problematic right after this, and I know there's at least one reporter in the room that knows this, that right after the boys' tournament schedules Comic-Con, which is a huge conference. And then after that, there's another one, then there's STLP. So even April, is that real? And then do you bring basketball back and stomp on all the spring sports? So I don't even think postponing is a really good idea. I think the key is to try to play it in some form or fashion at its original schedule, or at its scheduled dates.
Just for clarification, is tomorrow's decision final for next week as well, or will there be a separate decision on that?
I think that the intent is to try to announce tomorrow what we're going to do first and foremost, because we've got our conference call with the teams tomorrow. Where we talk about ticket availability, et cetera. If any of that changes, we're going to be able to tell them. And so the idea is if we can try to resolve it, but I think frankly, has the news been the same every day about the virus? No, so it could all change. You could come up with a plan to have a revised event and have to change it again. So I don't think there's any way of saying it final. We've got to be fluid, and we've got to continue to work with our partners at both the Department of Ed, our school systems, and our governor's office.
Right here.
You've talked with the governor's office and health officials. How are the teams responding to this? Like coaches, schools, like what are they asking, or how concerned do you feel like?
I think, Josh, it would depend on, to be honest, it would depend on what level in the school you ask. I think there's a certain level within the school that is plowing on. The coaches, most of those people, they're just worried about their focus. They've been focused since the regional final. When you start getting up the ladder where there's bigger worries, and you get your administrators involved, there's people talking about the wisdom of it, the wisdom of continuing to play, the wisdom of them to put buses on the road, the wisdom of putting their students, even though right now there has been nothing to indicate that the age we deal with is impacted by this virus, the kids 19 and under. But there's so many worries the further you get up the line. I always talk about the fact that the coach's perspective, and if I'm hiring coaches, I want a coach with this perspective. I want him focused on team. When I move up to the AD and the principal and the superintendent, my perspective just changes. And I think that's what we got here. So it depends on who you talk to. We've not heard from a single playing member or coaching member that's talked about, well, are we going to cancel this thing after Friday, or we're going to do something? No, I haven't heard that. I had a lot of that from administrators who have different worries they've got to think about.
Final questions, as Commissioner Tackett said, no sidebars, as you just shot. Final questions. Doesn't look like any, Commissioner Tackett?
Thank you. Thank you guys for trying to get them, staying in here and trying to get the message out consistently versus the popcorn message. Thank you very much. This might be Christie's.
It's ours.
No, they let it up there.
It's mine.
Oh, sure. Sorry about that.